guys. It is week 9 of the show, week 8, week 9. And okay, so I know I look crazy. I did it on purpose. Number one, let me take my new glasses off. In the 90s, even in the 80s, I think. Oh, hang on. FYI, a fan made this for me. It says, love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can as fast as you can. How cool is that? So I planned my whole outfit around this mask. Now, these are much bigger, but in the 80s, I used to wear the Yoko Ono Porsche, shields. And I'm going to tell you the story of these glasses. Okay, so yesterday was Friday. It was the first, official to me, holiday weekend, summertime, blah, 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 like kickoff of the summer. But was it really? Was it really the kickoff of the summer? So here's what I did. I totally jacked everything up. I was looking so nice for you. And that's what it does. I'm constantly mask on, mask off, glasses. I don't even wear rings anymore because I wash my hands so much. Okay. I get so excited and distracted when I see your names come up, and I'm so happy to see all of you. And some of you are my 330 people. So you can see I changed dresses. I wore my hot pink so that I could show you my cool mask and my glasses. So yesterday, I finally decided to get my dog groomed. And here's the funny part of that, is that the dog groomer was open. Okay, I could do this. Melrose was empty. I just walked up and down Melrose waiting for them to text me and say, your dog's done. And I saw all kinds of crazy stuff, including a store that does CBD products for your dog, which was open. So, as I said on my 330 today, you can get, weed for your dog, but can't get a manicure. Dog weed, no nail polish. All right. And some of the stores were being crafty, and that they weren't open, but they had a couple of, not many. I mean, I walked a lot. They had racks on the street with products. So you could, walk up in the open air with your mask on if you were wearing a mask, if you should be. I saw a lot of Gen Zers without masks, and rifle through the stuff because it's in the open air. And then the store had the door ajar with a table. Couldn't go in, but you could pay. So I saw these glasses for $15, and they reminded me of my Yoko Ono glasses from the 80s. These are much bigger, but I thought, my goodness, between these glasses and that mask, you can hardly see my face. And I have a big head. I have a big drag queen head. I have to wear man hats. When I wear a hat, I have to buy man size. I don't know what I am, I just know that when I try them on, when I see really cute little hats at like Forever 21 or H&M, they never fit me because I have a giant drag queen head. So if all of this is swallowing up my face, I can only imagine little people, people, little pinheads. I had a fabulous week, mostly because of you guys. I could lie, but what's the point? You already know it. You know how I feel about you. I talked to a web designer to figure out, and I'm not even kidding about this, how to make a map, an interactive map. I know that I have different people on different platforms, so if I repeat myself over the platform a little bit, I apologize, but I want to make sure everybody knows everything. So at 3:30, I go live on Facebook every day, 3:30, Monique Marvez official fan page, and I just kind of, take the pulse of how we're feeling that day. It's about a 15 to 20 minute endeavor. A couple of them have been epic poems, but not many. They're usually between 15 and 20. And I talked about how I'm very much contemplating. And when I say contemplate, I'm one of those people that I think, I ruminate, I marinate, and then there's a tipping point, and there's a decision, and then it's go. I'm like, bam. So this post-pandemic or during the pandemic, summer of 2020, that almost isn't happening, I'm still considering, very much so, a road trip. Just get out there and see where I can do comedy. If the clubs are open in some states, do a flyby. And if the club isn't, hey, I have friends. I know people with karaoke mics. Hector Baez, he has a karaoke mic in Ocala, Florida. He's offered it to me. And Monica, who's always with me from Shreveport, Louisiana, she knows a bar where they have a vet, a Vietnam vet, not a dog healer vet, who owns it. And she said, hey, you come down to Louisiana, we will get you up. So I contacted, and these are things that would send me into a cold sweat. Like, these would keep Monique up at night, panicked. Guess what? Not anymore. The Rona took my fear. The Rona took my fear of technology and social media. I'm getting real comfy with it. Thanks to you guys. It's like, the mother of invention, necessity, the Rona. So, this week, it's funny because I have notes all over my house. I'm like a maniac. I've shown you guys my journal. I write everywhere. It's just, if you could see what's in those cabinets behind me, it's bananas. So I wrote this because I'm writing, I was before this, now I've kind of shifted to focus on getting good with social media and creating content for, multi-platform distribution. But that being said, I was writing a one-woman show up until a few months ago. And, these are notes from a year ago. And this week on one of my 330s, we dug into the whole notion of going deeper than just spark joy. It's really deeper than just inventorying your belongings and, holding them to your chest to see if they make you happy or not happy. It's not about that. It's about, are they telling you a story? When you look at them, it's no longer enough for me to break even. I can't break even. Everything has to be bringing it. Bring me something. Add, create for me. Put some deposits in my currency bank. Not everything is cash, but I'm very much understanding enrichment and being rich versus being wealthy. I've always felt blessed. I've always felt kind of rich. I've never worried, even when I was super broke. But now I look at all of the objects in my house, and I found this piece of paper that I wrote April 26th of last year. So it's, 13 months ago. And this was one of the lines from my one-woman show, because I get inspired and then I just write it and stick it in my purse. And I'm sorting things. I've listened to so many believed to be silent for so long. I've listened to so many objects believed to be silent. I've listened. This week I stopped listening and I started talking, conversing, dialoguing. And what that means is everything tells me, remember when you picked me up at that thrift store in Jackson, Tennessee, how happy you were, how lucky you felt that you nabbed me for $8 and put me in the back. At that time, I had a 1987 Jeep Cherokee straight six. I put 319,000 miles on. At that point, that was my third road car. I had that car till 1997. Okay, so I've spent a lot of this week sorting and getting organized and having conversations with things. I said, hello, Mr. Vase. I remember when I found you in San Diego. Loved you then, love you now. Because every time I look at you, you bring me something. I don't just have a good memory, the artwork, the fact that you're like some original California pottery with a stamp on the bottom. And maybe I paid $19.99. The funny part is that I'm like Minnie Pearl. And if you know who that is, you're over 50 and your parents watch the Grand Ole Opry or Hee Haw. Hee Haw. I used to be on Saturday nights when I was a kid. But I don't want to get, trust me, if I digress into hee-haw stories, we're never coming back. I loved hee-haw. But Minnie Pearl was a woman who had a price tag always hanging off of her hat. And I have things that I've owned for 20 years that still have the sticker from the thrift store on the bottom. Because even the sticker makes me happy. Even seeing that I got it for $8 makes me happy. Every time I look at that currency, there's a deposit in the bank of my rich life. So, you know, I've really gone sort of next level of feeling rich and enriched and powerful. And that's kind of catapulted me over my fear of, you know, technology and social media and learning all the settings and how to make things do this and do that. So I called a web designer who came highly recommended. She's in England. That was exciting. Talked to somebody in the UK. It's such a crazy world now. It's one thing to get over technology. And then, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to get some college student from UCLA. And when I ask around and send out some emails to people that are good at stuff, because that's what you do. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I got this lady's name. I call her a lady. I don't know what she looks like. She has a little tiny avatar on Zoom, and she looks young and cute, sweet. So I contacted her, and we talked about creating a map where you guys could drop pins. I mean, look, I know I can go on YouTube and see, you know, logistics, whatever that dashboard is of who's listening and watching and how long and where. But there's no fun in that for me. My life isn't about numbers. My life isn't about numbers. My life is about experiences. It's about the visual and the intuitive. And seeing a map with your names, you know, I'll have to spread in some places to see a lot of names, but hopefully at some point it'll be so crowded, it'll just be pin drops. It won't be, you know, it'll be a little bit like the Rona, but in a good way. And so we'll have pin drops. And then when I go out on the road, I'm not even saying if anymore, when you guys can track me, like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? And I'm pretty sure she can figure out how or find somebody because they have Uber apps that show you. So I feel pretty confident that we're going to get this done. And now, rather than be terrified, I've completely reached that tipping point and gotten to the other side where I'm excited. I'm no longer anxious. Same emotion, you know, same hormones. I don't know if you know this. Sadly enough, I read this on a sign at a Lululemon store. I'm a little ashamed to admit, but I looked it up and it's true. I didn't just drink the Lululemon Kool-Aid of the $100 workout pants. And it said that your body secretes the exact same emotions for anxiety and excitement. Your mind decides which one it is. Your brain decides if you are excited or anxious. Your brain, front brain, because your body hormonally acts the same. It excretes the same hormones, whether you're excited or anxious. So I'm usually a happy person, an excited person, but you know, I got to be honest with you. The idea of looking up specs on a computer to figure out if I want 256 gigabytes or a terabyte. Ha! You like the way I did that? Did you like that with the terabyte? I was pretty proud of myself. But I actually spent last week in contemplation of finishing my one-woman show, building the graphics for the background, you know, our road, whatever I'm doing, road trip, I'm saying it. The Corona plan, road trip. But I'm going to do it smart. I'm going to do it safe. We're going to talk about that in a minute because we have a security guard on the roof of my building right now. I think he got off work at 7:30. I asked him. That was asking for IDs because as residents, we have an ID because we're attached to another building we have better amenities than they do. You know, make sure they don't come over here. But that being said, to keep parties from happening because it's been ridiculous. Like we have helicopters hovering over Hollywood because the Gen Zers, and let's face it, I'm not knocking the little Peckerwoods because when we were kids, we thought we were bulletproof too in the 80s. So I'm not knocking them. I get it, but they're not taking this serious. They're not wearing masks and they're sneaking friends in through the garage. So when I went to walk Nola, my dog, before the show tonight, I actually got stopped at the elevator on the roof. The dog walk is on the roof. And he said, "May I see your ID?" And I was like, "You bet it. You bet." Here, bam. I said, "Just so you know, I'm Mrs. Kravitz. I'm the old lady who texts the front desk that I hear noise and I smell weed. I'm that person. I'm Mrs. Kravitz." So, I mean, not in a bad way. I don't care. Just if you're going to smoke a lot of stinky weed, do it on your balcony. We share air conditioning ducts and hallways. And whew, I'm telling you, I'm a little afraid of a contact high. So before I get back to the map and being excited and looking up specs on the computer, sidebar, I have friends, because we don't have an overall policy of what we're doing as a country with this opening or not opening. And you know, in New York, the beaches are open, but you can't swim. What? You can just look at it, lay on the sand. I don't know. I was looking through, and you know what? It boggles the mind. I actually have articles for you, but I was looking through like what you can do where. It's crazy. It's piecemeal. Like if I really was jonesing for a manicure and pedicure, I could get one in Arizona. If I drive to Lake Havasu, I can get a mani-pedi. Am I going to do that? No. But I have friends on my way down to Disneyland yesterday. We'll talk about that also in a minute. I'm building the show. See how we're doing this? I'm keeping you hooked. I have friends who drove to Lake Havasu to party. They're younger than me. They're in their 30s. And I told myself, because I've been by myself for weeks and weeks. I said, you're going to be extra careful next week, because when all these kids come back from Havasu in Vegas, doesn't that just sound disease ridden? When they come, I mean, forget the Rona, like there was already all kind of stuff going on before that. You know, it's so funny because now with coronavirus, we're like, oh, herpes, not a big deal. At least my lungs aren't scarred and my brain isn't cooked if I live through it. So yes, I'm going to be extra careful next week. Because I think they're going to be bringing back some extra big cooties. But that's just me. I completely respect that some people do not think this is that big of a deal. See, that's what makes me different than other people. I am respectful of other people's beliefs. If you think this whole thing is a conspiracy or it's some bloodless coup sent from, the far, whatever. I'm not going to fight with you about it. I just know that this girl, after this holiday weekend, is going to be a little bit extra careful. Okay? Fair enough. So let's get back to memorializing Memorial Day weekend from the summer of 2020 that's happening in a very weird way. So I have a dear friend who is an Uber driver, videographer, producer. He's a one-man band. This guy does everything. Oh, by the way, he produces this show. He helps me because I still haven't gotten my brain wrapped around this. So my friend Stanton, he's amazing, jack of all trades. I said, "Hey, Stanton, how about you and me run down to Disneyland and take pictures of what isn't happening?" It was a good-natured sojourn. I thought it was just going to be like, "Hey, let's go look at some closed gates." And not to be like a Debbie Downer, but it was not closed gates. There were closed gates, and there were closed gates, and so much more. We took some footage and some photographs. We're going to put together a little something that we can share with you, hopefully by next week. But if not, in a never-ending effort to be appealing and delightful to you, I actually got the copy of my first and up to now only Zoom show, my Zoom actual stand-up comedy, and I was standing up when I did it. So I got my dear friend Sammy Obeid, a comedian that I work with at Hermosa, to send me the clip, and it's good. It's 11-minute, nice chunk, 11, almost 12 minutes of comedy. And Stanton and I are we're gonna get it together. We're gonna get it out to you this week so that you have fresh stand-up, brand new stuff. And if you noodle around on the page, you're gonna find I have new material from Hermosa Beach Comedy and Magic Club, but that was filmed just before the pandemic. It wasn't Zoom. This is Zoom, baby. It's different. It's a whole new world. It was peculiar to watch myself in that setting. Sometimes I watch my stand-up. To be honest, I usually don't. It's really hard to watch yourself. It's like an out-of-body experience. But sometimes I watch it like game film to see why a bit worked, how I can embellish it, make it better. And when I sat and actually watched this, I was like, that's not bad for a Zoom show. I was funny. You could hear the other people laughing in the gallery. So there you have it. I'm looking forward to that. So let's get back to Disney, and we'll make a little something for you to watch. And thank you. Somebody, just a little message popped up that said, I love hearing your stories. Thank you. So Stanton and I, and I'll just tell you, I got the band back together. We social distanced, but it was Stanton, myself, and Tony Sorrentino from KFI, who has done my podcast for 5 years, and he's a sound guy. You know, he's just fantastic, and I missed him, and I want to start doing podcasts, which is different than this. You guys seem to really have enjoyed Hindsight is So 2020. It was like 4,700 views on it, so we're gonna keep doing that as well. There's all different moods, you know. There's all different vibes of material. Some stand-up, some prose, some podcasts. And this is Talk of Our Times is a little bit of a mashup of my KFI radio show, the podcast, the 3:30. It's what's going on during the pandemic. It's a little bit of everything. It's a gumbo yaya of content and emotions. So I hope you're liking it. You seem to be. Thank you. So we drove around, Tony, Stanton, and I, and it was crazy because not only is Disneyland closed, everything around it. It's like all of the arteries that fed into the ocean, all of the rivers of people, of food, of joy, of, you know, you see all the little theme hotels and all of the ones on Harbor and Disney Drive closed, shuttered. If you were from out of town and you just wanted to stay in a hotel room to ride out the storm, they're not open. The McDonald's across the street from Disneyland, which is frequently billed as the busiest McDonald's on earth, closed, shuttered, chain mail fence. They're claiming they're going to reopen. It was crazy. And then I started thinking about the animals in Africa that are like crossing the street and hanging out and taking naps, you know, the lions, and woo, everybody's like chill. And as I was hanging out, taking stills, and we did a little video, I could hear the ducks in the park. Because think about it. If there's nobody in there messing with them, you know, you've got the feral cats, you've got the ducks, you know, I'm sure the vermin is pretty much gone between the feral cats and the lack of food. You don't see the birds flying, because a lot of times you see birds flying because they go on in and grab, you know, the popcorn or whatever. There was a bit of a scandal a long time ago, in all fairness. I don't want to talk out of turn. There was a scandal in Orlando when I was a kid because the seagulls were flying that far inland because there was so much food in Disney World that they were coming that many miles in from the west, you know, from both coasts actually, to, I mean, the seagull doesn't say like, hey, I just flew in from, you know, Cape Canaveral and my wings are tired. So stupid. I can't believe I did that. All right, whatever. So, but there was a rumor that they had sharpshooters taking out the seagulls, that they were, I heard, you know, rumors, poison and sharpshooters. to clear out the seagulls, because there were a lot. I remember them, and I know that they. Can you hear the party outside the door? Maybe not, but they're definitely the kids are definitely breaking loose on the roof of the building. You can hear them. So that was what we did yesterday. I went up and down Melrose while Nola got a bath, and then I went out to Disneyland. And the interesting part is there hasn't been traffic in LA for months, a couple of months. And not that I even get around much, because I don't, just the grocery store or to go park in Larchmont and go for a run. It was so bizarre to see real traffic, like gridlock, when we were going south to go to Disneyland, because the 10 east towards Havasu and Vegas was bumper to bumper, like a regular holiday weekend. Like, hello, there's a pandemic going on. Evidently, the pandemic is, it's California. It's coastal, New York and California. That's, you get the best of times. It's like a tale of two cities. It's the best of times, living on the coast, being in the 5th largest economy in the world. I love California and I love New York. But the downside of being, the greatest and the most wonderful, exciting places to be is that they're dense, and they're by the sea, and it's interesting to be in a place where people call us the land of fruits and nuts, where we're like liberal, and Gavin Newsom is supposedly a pretty liberal guy. I don't know him personally, we've never hung out, but we're pretty restricted here in California, and especially in Los Angeles. And I guess there's some people that are like, we're not gonna take it. They're doing their best D. Snyder. They're like, getting out of here. And some people are going south. Evidently, San Diego is turning a blind eye to a lot of shenanigans that LA is not. Fireworks going off. It's 11:30 here. Hey, Lionel. Lionel's got fireworks. So there you have it. So, one of the things that I talked about on the 3:30 today that I just touched on, that I very much want to expand on with you guys, is that earlier in the show, I said that I'm not about numbers, and I'm not. I know numbers. I get a real kick out of things. I told you guys weeks ago a story where my friend Sherry from Florida, she's been my hairdresser since I was 21 years old. 21 years old. She did my hair for 2 out of 3 of my weddings, and the third one I eloped. She couldn't do my hair anyway. So that's how long I've known Sherry. And when I did Comic Relief in New York, I went up as a reporter for a TV station in Miami, and I got to do a lot of side stuff. I didn't perform. I was only 7 years into being a comedian. But Sherry and I went up in the spring of 1997 to Comic Relief in New York. I think it might have even been one of the last ones. We were Radio City Music Hall. She said, I'll do your hair for free if you take me with you, so that I can be backstage and see Whoopi and Robin, rest in peace, and Billy Crystal. And we got to go to a bunch of really cool parties while we were up there. And Sherry laughed, because at night, this is before I wrote, Red Spark Joy, I empty my purse, I straighten all my receipts, not just for taxes, but because I'm a little bit anal retentive, and I straighten my receipts, and I wipe down my makeup, I clean the inside of my purse, put everything back in, and then I count my change, silver and copper, and I knew exactly how much change I have in my purse on any given day. And I kind of lost track of doing that, but there was something about it that I'd carried over from being a road comic, because change was money. It's real money. It's change. But 4 quarters at $2, there was a time when there was a special at McDonald's where you could buy a quarter pounder for $1.99 in the 90s when I was a road comic. Now, I think that's the last. I haven't eaten meat in almost 10 years, and I haven't eaten a quarter pounder since the 90s. But when you're a broke-ass road comic with bald tires, change matters. And I think it just kind of reminded me, every day to be aware, to be a good steward, to know what I had. So when I say I'm not about numbers, well, I can tell you how much I have in my bank account and how much I have in my IRA, and which thank God it ain't much, but it'll carry me through the Rona. But the point is that I'm aware of things. I know that I have like 3,180 subscribers, give or take a few. I know that I have 7,000. I know how many people I have on social media. I know how many people I have on different platforms. I know what my credit card balances are. I know what my rate of interest is. I know how much I weigh. I know these things. But what's very interesting to me is that I do that to show that I care and that I'm a good steward. Not to say like, oh my goodness, I've been doing this so long and I only have, this many Twitter followers. I'm delighted, thrilled, honored. Can't even believe it. I wake up every day feeling blessed that anybody cares what I have to say. I really do. When I did Not Skinny, Not Blonde on Showtime, and within 1 hour it maxed out my personal Facebook page, I was blown away. I can't even believe I have over 7,000 fans on my official Monique Marvez fan page. Still like, and my HBO Max special is going to air this summer, and I'm so excited about it. I can't even imagine how the numbers will change. But the interesting part of that is that this doesn't change. Because for me, it's not about this. It's about this. It's about the depth of the experience. It's about my ability to feel like I'm connecting with you and putting out content that you like. So it's interesting to me that in this time of the pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, the summer of Rona, the Rona took my summer, is that I can see that at 3:30 there's a count and X amount of people show up every day. And if it were a comedy club, it would be a small audience, but it's a genuine audience that shows up and comments and relates and shares. And even now I've started going to my YouTube page and scrolling, because I was only looking at Talk of Our Times. But then I saw that you guys are leaving comments on the comedy videos or the older videos, and you're revisiting stuff. And I'm scrolling and I'm seeing, oh my goodness, they're still watching the first one, or they're watching them all in a row. I'm still getting used to how we relate now. And I'm telling you, just like looking at the paintings in my house and saying, I remember when I found you. I loved you then and I love you now. I'm having that experience with you. In that, as I'm learning how we do things, it's every single time I get a positive comment, or somebody says, I watched this with my wife, or I've made 3 of my friends watch, somebody said, we just rewatched Not Skinny, Not Blonde, which is on LOL Flix's page because they produced it for Showtime. But when then they come to my page and they say, I just watched Snoop Dogg presents the Bad Girls of Comedy, or I just rewatched Latin Divas, and it's just like the gift that keeps, it's like an annuity. It's like a spiritual annuity. It's more money than money right now. As I'm thinking about what's going to happen next when I go back to work, I'm thinking, well, this isn't going to stop. If I'm on a ship or I have a gig somewhere, it won't be at 8:00 live, but I feel like I brought back the best parts of my KFI radio show. I feel like I'm getting currency, paid money, energetic money every time I do this. It enriches me. And that's exciting to me, because why do we track numbers? Why do we care? Why do we codify and quantify things? Why do we need to know how many people like us or follow us? Would we post content if we couldn't see, if it was blind? If it was like a blind test and you just did it and you had no idea who was watching or who cared or how they commented? I think I still would, because I would feel it. And my dad told me many, many years ago Among all of the brilliant things he told me, this was one of the most brilliant, which is excellence is its own reward. You should do it because you're doing it, because it's the right thing to do, or because it's excellent, or because it makes you happy, or it's your passion, or it's what you're supposed to do. I've said this so many times, and I'm sure I've said this on another show of this show. Vincent van Gogh sold one painting in his lifetime. Uno. One. He was one painting away from goose egg. It's incredible. So here we are, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. And I want to dig deeper. And I have so many stories, but we'll get to them. We have time. Here are some of the headlines. All-girl robotics team in Afghanistan works on low-cost ventilator with car parts. I don't even think I need to do the story. I mean, hello? How great of a headline is that? All-girls robotics team in Afghanistan works on low-cost ventilator with car parts. The picture's amazing. It's these adorable girls wearing their headdress, their proper gear, being scientists with robot arms. It's pretty impressive. We'll get to more stories. But I wanted to really extend this because it's a little bit like the, I guess what I was saying about cash and currency, anxiety and excitement, same hormones. So I've noticed that during the pandemic, during this time, COVID, I'm just going to call it a pandemic because that's what the World Health Organization calls it. And I don't want to just keep saying COVID-19. It makes it sound very innocuous. Pandemic sounds like there's a real thing going on. Because ladies and gentlemen, there's a real thing going on. There's no sports happening. I don't even know what season we would be in. I think basketball's over. The boys of summer. I mean, I don't even know what sports happen in May. I'm pretty ignorant, I know. Oh, Indianapolis 500 is supposed to be this weekend. I didn't even think about that till this very second. That's crazy. Oh, there you have it. I did radio in Indianapolis for 2 years. Memorial Day weekend. Hello, Indianapolis 500. Not so much. I'm going to have to look that up and see what they're doing about it. There's been no news. That's peculiar unto itself. So as I was saying, that during this time, I have friends. They're good friends. I love them. I've known them for years. And they're great. They're great for, passing the time. And when I say that, I mean, we're in a comfort zone. We go to lunch, we go to coffee, we talk about the same things. We have mutual friends. We have shared history. We have inside jokes. They make me feel good. They flatter me. Maybe some of them, and I'm not saying this think about it in your own life. Maybe they're not as bright as me or as driven as me, or, but they're always great. Like, just saw your latest video, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes maybe they hit you up for a loan or for advice, place to crash, whatever. But even if they're on their own, maybe they even have more money than you, than me, but they want a favor, or, it's just, I'm saying it for a reason. They're your good friends, and in some ways your good time friends. Do you have friends that you're just comfortable as old flannel pajamas? And maybe they're your fun friends, and that they're the people that you tend to overeat with, or the people you smoke weed with, or the people that you drink with, or you shop with, or you forward them links on Amazon. I'm not saying they're not great people. What I'm saying is they're sort of your fun/ego friends. You're comfortable, you feel good about them, you feel good about yourself. Maybe if you're really honest with yourself, you feel better about yourself for hanging out with them, because your life compared to their life is a better life. You're like, yeah, she's got that issue with her husband, or, oh man, one of her kids went off the rails. Think about it. Then, those friends they're low maintenance. You've known them a long time. You don't have to really strive. Like you can just, you call them, you see them, you go to their birthday, they come to your birthday. But I started thinking about what I'm going to call my ego friends, my comfortable friends, my fun friends. And then I started to think about how those friends have kind of disappeared. Because if we're not sharing an activity or hanging out, we didn't really talk about deep things unless we were doing the other stuff, hanging out, shopping. Like the conversations were the conversations, but they were a byproduct of our fun activities or our shared history or, etc. Interestingly enough, in that void of not having activities with these people, and I'm sure that when this is over, if I choose, and for the record, I ain't choosing, I could pick them up, call on the phone. We could be in Starbucks in an hour and it would be like nothing ever happened. In fact, we'd probably make a joke. We'd be like, so what's new? Anything going on? And that would be that. But then I have my other friends and they're more recent. Some of them are newer. In the void of that, I've been reaching out to some of my friends that maybe take me out of my comfort zone. Maybe they're more successful than me or smarter than me, or they're better at social media, or they know a woman that builds websites, or they have a more organized way of looking at their business model. And I'm not saying that it's all about business or making money, or I'm talking about growth and stretching and thinking bigger thoughts. And in the void of this time of being in my home and not being busy running around having coffee and talking bits and blah, 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 it's interesting how I must have wanted it. Everything is an answer to a prayer. You just have to remember what you prayed. And I believe that with all my heart. Everything is an answer to a prayer. And on some level, I really wanted to be hands-on with my social media. I didn't want to delegate it to a 12-year-old. And I wanted to understand how to build a web page that would be meaningful. And I wanted to talk about more important things, which you guys bring to me in private messages and links and things you want to share with me. And now I have what I'm going to term, soul friends, which are people that enrich me, expand me. Maybe you drag me out of my comfort zone. Maybe we have conversations about wearing masks or not wearing masks or what you think. I have a friend who's a very successful media guy. And for some reason, we've gotten closer during this. We've been talking a lot. He's a talker. He's old school. He's a little bit old. We talk. And we talk about media. And we talk about how this whole situation is a little bit of an accelerant. That these things were going to happen. A lot of things that are happening. I read an article that Pier 1 Imports is going to close. And they're claiming that it's, mostly due to the pandemic. But they're down to 500 stores this year from 1,000 stores last year. There was no pandemic last year, Pier 1 Imports, and you shuttered half your stores. Let's admit it. You're very 80s. I don't know anybody that shops at Pier 1 Imports. Oh, wait, my mother. And only when it's on sale. I'm not saying they're not like, a good memory, but they didn't keep up. The Crate and Barrels and the Crate and Barrel 2 or whatever, the CB2 or even West Elm. And I don't even like West Elm. I really don't. But my point is that I'm not surprised that Pier 1 Imports. All this did was sound the death knell. Like, okay, you got to go now. Let's face it, Pier 1 Imports outlasted Bombay Company by a dozen years. That's pretty long because I like Bombay Company better, and they've been gone for ages. This was an accelerant. A lot of things that are gone would have gone, or would have, they were on life support. They were on a ventilator built by car parts. But you get my point. So my friend and I, we've been talking about these things, and he's a super conservative guy insofar as, politically, he's very And it's interesting how when we're not trying to make each other see each other's point of view on a political left, right, red, blue, just talking, how much we agree that a lot of things that are coming out of this are good things. That, right now I read an article this last week that Disney was, and who knows who their team of experts is, but it's Disney. So they have the smartest people on the planet working for them, was basically saying, we're going to figure out how to reopen the parks. Evidently, all these experts saying it may not happen until 2021. Well, pound sand, that's not happening. But they are going to, after talking to experts and scientists and who knows who, lawyers, lots of lawyers, an army of lawyers, they're going to figure out a way to post in all of their areas, hey, just like a lot of comedy clubs have a sign that says, if you come into this club, you're agreeing to be filmed. End of story. Because comedy clubs film, a lot of them archive the performances. And I'm sure they might even have some cameras that have audience shots. So some comedy clubs, the more famous ones, especially in New York and LA, when you go in, they're letting you know you may be filmed. If you don't want that, don't come in. It's sort of a overall, you're signing a release form by the action of coming in. And Disney is basically saying that when they open, obviously they're going to do, social distancing, less people in the park, more stringent cleaning, blah, blah, blah. However, they will have some sort of signage saying, hey, we're doing everything in our power, but if you come in the park and you get the Rona, it's on you. Don't call, don't sue. And let's face it. I talked about it yesterday with my friend. Tony grew up within walking distance of the park. He's like Mr. Disney, like he knows everything. And he said they've never closed down, that he actually went after 9/11, and that even when they had that, slight measles outbreak a few years ago, they didn't close down. Measles is pretty contagious. So, there you have it. That's the world that we live in now, is that we can have conversations about things. Because interestingly enough, as I was writing, this is one of the things I wrote that I wanted to share with you, that this whole situation has reminded me of the sacred, the profound, the prurient, and the profane. Because people have posted so many bizarre things on social media. The power of a shared moment within a culture. We're all looking at the same thing. We can have different points of view, but we're all looking at this pandemic. The power of, like 9/11. And this is not even just US, this is the whole world. The power of a shared moment within a culture, an ability to all being able to relate to a circumstance, usually life-altering, often devastating. Think of the Depression, World War I, World War II. Electricity, telephones, even the iPhone spread more slowly than financial collapse, war, or the reaction to it, and this virus. Even using the expression going viral feels odd now. In this now, I am seeing the launch of many stars out of this chaos. I'll hold that up to you so you can see. And so there you have it. I'm going to reread it just because I found it interesting when I wrote it. I am reminded of the profound, the prurient, the profane, and the power of a shared moment within a culture. An ability to all being able to relate to a circumstance, usually life-altering, often devastating. Electricity, telephones, even the iPhone spread more slowly than financial collapse, war and the reaction to it, and this virus. Even using the expression going viral feels odd right now. In this now, I am seeing the launch of many stars out of this chaos. What I'm seeing is the launch of different kinds of connections and relationships and ways of relating and conversations. I'm excited about it, not anxious. I am enjoying my new soul friends. I enjoyed talking to the woman from England about the map. It was a great conversation. I called American Express to talk about the aging, and they're willing to be helpful. I can't say enough good things about American Express. I've been with them since they've been my lifeline. I've been a road comic. I've had an American Express card since 1994. So there you have it. I went on the road in 93. And they are extremely helpful when I said, hey, I don't mind paying my bill. Can we do something about the aging, the interest? And they've credited me all kinds of things. And the woman on the call, Ty, I wrote a nice comment about her, could not have been lovelier. It's an interesting thing how these extremes, these polarities, these life-altering, often devastating situations, force you into a new way of looking at things. So that's what I wanted to share on the personal, which leaves me exactly 8 minutes to share a couple of headlines. I'm not apologizing. That's the beauty of this show. I'm not on KFI. I don't have to answer to a program director. I don't have to do current events or local news. I can do whatever I want. See how great that is? And you guys inspire me. Okay, so here is just a couple headlines I'm going to run through, quick and dirty. America is reopening for the summer and the tensions are high. Do I need to read that story? It's a state-by-state, case-by-case. This was one of my favorite stories of the week. I love this story. It's out of the Washington Post. It's a news outlet. I'm also being very careful where I get my news and to make sure things are vetted and don't pull me in either direction. It's just a story. So here's the story. NASA is naming its newest space telescope for a pioneering female astronomer. And they have a picture of her. Her name's Nancy Grace Roman, and they call her the Mother of Hubble. That's to me, that's better than Mother of Dragons. Mother of Hubble. It's marking the first time in the agency's 62-year history that one of its major billion-dollar programs has been named for a female. And it went on to tell the whole story of how she died in 2018 at 93, how she started out. She was the person in the 1970s, Roman set up a steering group for what would become the Hubble telescope. She spent untold hours writing testimony for Congress and convincing budget offices of the project's importance. With its 7-foot 9-inch mirror and $4.5 billion sticker price, the Hubble was far bigger and more costly than any space telescope ever launched. So how cool is that they're naming a project after her? And I love that. Okay, let's go to another headline that I loved. This one was really good. I'm so excited to share these things with you. I hope that you enjoy them as well. This was a little bit of a sad story. I don't want to sound, insensitive or tone deaf. He was 91. Former White House employee who served 11 presidents dies of coronavirus at 91. 91. He was the butler. His granddaughter confirmed it to NBC News. His name was Wilson Roosevelt German with a J. He was one of the longest serving employees, and everybody, all the presidents came and said nice things about him from both sides, Bush, Hillary, Obama. They all said that, in fact, Barbara Bush said he was the last person that we saw at night and the first person we saw in the morning. He was that guy. And Jackie Kennedy is the person who promoted him. He originally came in as a cleaner and to maintain things, and she promoted him to butler because she thought so highly of him. He felt that presentation was everything. His granddaughter said that even within his home, in which he has two paintings, one signed by Jackie, one by JFK, he would carve radishes into swans just for their family picnic. So she said he would scallop radishes and make them look like swans, and he would make animals out of watermelon scoops. He was very creative. Presentation is everything. Well, isn't that the darn truth? And I wish that I had, the reason to have a 91-year-old Butler, because I think that having somebody like that who has so much history, so much knowledge, rest in peace. Rest in peace. What a wonderful experience for his granddaughter to have a grandfather like that. I think this kind of captures what's going on right now and the conflict and how people are feeling. This was a very strange story I got from Fox News. Florida woman arrested after kissing strangers at a bar, calling 911 on same bar for violating distancing rules. So as you read the story in her mugshot, when I used to do the radio show on KFI, I always had mugshot of the week. She would have made mugshot of the week. I would have definitely done this story. A woman in Florida was arrested earlier this week after allegedly trying to kiss the patrons of a Brevard County bar and then repeatedly calling. She was in Melbourne, Florida. My friend Dave Mack and I have shared a lot of good times in Melbourne. I did a lot of comedy in Melbourne at Larry Silver's place, at Makoto's, and all the other places where he had Groucho's Comedy Club over the years. She tried to kiss people at random. I guess she was drunk. I'm going to say, looking at her mugshot, she was 3 sheets to the wind. And during this time, she also phoned 911. So evidently trying to kiss people didn't work. Then she was conflicted and angry. And then she would go and call the police and say, they're not practicing social distancing. Talk about mixed messages. So she was arrested and turned over to the sheriff. She's been charged with trespassing after warning disorderly conduct, resisting an officer with violence. She allegedly tried to flee, and misuse of the 911 system. So there you go. Bars and restaurants in many parts of Florida were allowed to reopen as of May 4th under Phase 1 rules. But friends of mine are saying a lot of the bars, my friend Rick in Cape Canaveral is like, nobody's being particularly careful. And for the last story of the night, because I always like to end on a high note, you have to imagine that in our minds, we're going to think like, oh, I remember when, think of, trust me, I get it. I had all of my cruise ship contracts canceled. But isn't it weird that for some people, this is going to be the best time of their life? And here's the story of some people. Son reunites with parents 32 years after kidnapping, thanks to facial recognition technology. A Chinese couple, isn't it nice to have a nice story out of China? A Chinese couple who spent more than 3 decades, these people never gave up, searching for their son who was abducted in the late 80s, were reunited with him on Monday, bringing to a close what local media called one of the county's most notorious missing child cases. I guess they have counties over there too. Mao Yin, now 34, was headed home from kindergarten in Xi'an with his father when he said he was thirsty. His mother told the South China Morning Post. The older Mao stopped at the entrance of a hotel to get his son some water and briefly looked away. During that time, his son was snatched and ultimately sold to a couple who didn't have children for the equivalent of what would be $840 today. They never stopped tracking him, and through social recognition, facial recognition, they were able to show what he would look like today, and they created a simulated image. They went through DNA. It confirmed it was him. He was living 600 miles away, and as soon as he found out, and this is interesting, the people that bought him, raised him, he thought they were his parents for 34 years, 32 of his 34 years. Guess what? As soon as he knew the truth of his life, he went back to his parents, to his real parents. And I don't know if this can be picked up, but look at that picture. That's it. That goes to show you how deep love runs, how deep, deep, deep those ties. Mother and son, father and son, parents who never gave up, father who was probably riddled with guilt when all he was trying to do was get his son a drink. 30, I mean, look at this. It's too beautiful. So while we're experiencing whatever we're experiencing, we always have the opportunity to share in a positive experience. If you're not having a great time right now, look up that story. I promise you, it'll bring you joy. It'll move your needle. It'll get you past whatever you're feeling in this now. 34 years is a very long time to be looking. And we're not going to even be 34 months or 34 weeks into this situation. We're just not. It's going to be okay. I'll see you guys next Saturday night. Love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can as fast as you can.